All right, so here's what you got to do. Before you come over, I'm going to recommend you do homework. You should probably watch one of this video at very least. It's only going to be like an hour, hour and a half long. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who still celebrating New Year's to this day. Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good, yeah. It's still the new year, you know. You might say, well, the new year only starts, there's only one day, and I'm like, who says? Is your new uh, car only new the first day that you get it, or is it new for the first week or a few weeks or a month or something? Get a new PS5, a new Xbox, new computer. How long are you telling people you got a new thing? Oh, yeah, I just got a new computer. When did you get it? Did you get it today? No, I got it 3 days ago. Oh, well, it's not new anymore, then is it? I say the year is new at least. I mean, I think it's up to anybody individually, but personally, the year is new to me for, but probably 2 full weeks at the very least, if I'm being really conservative. So I that's just how I feel, and you know, if you don't like it, then I guess you can tweet about it on X or Blue Sky or make a TikTok video. I don't know, but it's up to you. How
All
are you
right.
doing, Joe?
I thought maybe you're just porting over, your time in Japan, those 3 days of New Year's, each day doing your own special thing, special meal, but then also throwing your Texas spin, just, firing guns in the air. But then I realized, oh, that's just normal Friday evening.
shoot,
So,
shoot and holler.
uh,
Yeah,
I mean, just remember what goes up must come down. So go at an angle
you do a little angle.
towards the people you don't like.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. But yes, how's your New Year's? You're still, are you done with the family finally? Finally cleared all that stuff up or what?
Yep, it was pretty good. Pretty much done with the family. Did watch the UT game on New Year's Day, and that it was UT was up a lot pretty early, and it looked pretty bad, and then Arizona State clawed their way back in with UT's help, in my opinion, and yeah, so they ended up winning, but it was a very harrowing game, and um, I thought both teams deserved to lose. I thought,
You're talking about Texas and not Utah, right?
yeah, that's not a real. Sorry, Utah. That's not a real UT. And neither is the one in Tennessee. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Maybe they do call it that, but what do you want from me? Anyway, the actual UT, which I'm a Razorback, so I don't really root against them, but I also don't completely wholeheartedly root for them. Anyways, I was going to say Arizona State deserved to lose that game early, and Texas deserved to lose that game late. And I don't really think either one of them really deserved to win it. But unfortunately, we had to have a winner. So it happened. I mean, and really, Texas is the better team overall. So um, it just balanced out in the end. Anyway, so that was my New Year's. But Thursday and Friday were not easy to get back in the swing of things. And I don't want to go. I don't want to go back to work. I think we should have a few more days off every week, at least until the spring. But that is the world that we live in. So, um, yeah. How was your New Year's, Joe?
Busy because it was more of an extension of Christmas due to other circumstances. I ended up celebrating Christmas late with multiple groups, and
Mm.
then doing a New Year's Christmas with certain friends. And yeah, I ended up cooking like a turkey and a ham, and I have another turkey on the way that I'm going to be cooking this week. So all within a week, lots and lots of leftovers. Goodness gracious. Um, yeah, luckily we have a second freezer, so we're good. And yeah, just mad busy. So now also my kids are really skewed about like how Santa works because we originally gave like we had the presents under the tree and we're like, yeah, you guys are gonna have to hold like Santa left them a note. You're gonna have to hold these presents until grandma and grandpa come, and then some of these other presents until some of the other family come. But they're there under the tree just waiting for you, you know. But they're champs about it, and they manned out like bandits. So I think I mentioned that last time too. But yeah, they're uh, oh, I did pretty good for myself this year too, so I was actually kind of happy.
Well, yeah,
One of yeah,
I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. Maybe we both were watching the PS5 or the PlayStation Store sales, and we both had some pretty decent hauls. I think there's quite a bit that was on sale, um, and uh, and then I didn't get really much on Steam. I just got Frostpunk 2, so I'm looking forward to playing that. But yeah, I mean, I felt like it was a pretty good a pretty good little haul that I got, and I'll be excited to talk about some of those games later.
yeah. I just picked up myself the PlayStation PC VR PS VR2 PC adapter.
Right.
So yeah, it finally came in the mail. Came in today, so I haven't had a chance to even hook it up yet. But I'm looking forward to that. And in anticipation of that, knowing that it was coming in the mail, I was able to pick up at least one game from the Steam sale, and that was the Half-Life Alex.
Right.
So yeah, most definitely looking forward to that. In fact, I realized I'm like, this is the last time I bought a game from Steam. I'm like, okay, I bought Helldivers like when that first came out for my buddy's birthday and myself, and then before that, I think it was Vampire Survivors. And other than that, like I haven't like it's been so rare that I buy anything off of Steam anymore. It does help that I have a large catalog that I just kind of forget about, but then also you got Amazon giving a bunch of free games and like Epic always giving their free games. Uh, and then I just play a lot of the stuff on PlayStation through library. So if it's on multi-platform and I can just wait, I'll just, do that. So it really kind of helps the pocketbook that way. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
be seeing. Yeah,
I do think the deepest discounts are still on Steam, um, but I'm just way more likely to just offhandedly play a game on sitting on my couch, um, and playing on my. I mean, my monitor is great. It's fine. But just playing off my TV on my couch with my controller on my PS5, just way more likely to do that for whatever reason. That and then the I don't care about Steam achievements really at all because I guess I might in some other world,
yeah,
but so it's like, well, if I'm gonna tinker around and get a couple of trophies, then I want to do it in on PlayStation because that's the only place that I really kind of care about that. So yeah, so now I kind of just relegate Steam stuff. I mean, if I kind of relegate Steam stuff to PC specific games. So Frostpunk, they made one for consoles, the first one, but that feels like a PC game to me. So that, and then there's probably the other one's going to come out later this year. The gosh dang it, the altars, I think is what it's called, where you're making clones of yourself and you're trying to move this wheel or something like that. Anyway, also an 11-bit games game. That also feels like a true PC game to me. So I'm kind of just doing that, and then anything else that I can get away with um, on PS5, then I go ahead and do that. But anyway, so yeah, that's just a little bit about my philosophy right now.
yeah, and you're right. Is the altars?
Yeah,
That's the game with the wheel, and that looks pretty good.
it looks interesting.
11-bit does a lot of fun stuff. So
Yeah, I'm learning. So like I was looking at something. I think it was the altars, and I for some reason noticed the developer And I was like, yeah, that does look good. And I already knew they had made Frostpunk and Frostpunk 2 and stuff like that. I was like, I wonder what else they made. And I looked in there, and there's a couple other games that I have played recently that I'll talk about at some point. But a couple other games I played recently where I was like, oh, that's 11-minute games, and that's 11-minute games, that's 11-minute games. Like, dang, I guess I really like these developers because they seem to make games that I don't love every single one, but the ones I've played, I'm like, those are all pretty good. So I guess they're my favorite developer for the time being, which, learn something new all the time, I guess.
All right. Well, let's go get to the news. I mean, it hasn't been a full week since we last podcast, so not a lot, but we still got a few things, right?
Yeah, not too much, but actually a little bit more than I was expecting. Um, Biggest story to me was that Apple has said that they are going to be stopping production of the Vision Pro, which is their 3D headset. If you're not aware, due to having too much in stock and not enough demand to, I guess, get rid of it fast enough or whatever. So they're going to stop production of it. Yeah, so that's mm, I don't. I didn't predict that, but I feel like I could have and should have. Because when you kind of look back on it in hindsight, it's like, yeah, that's really not that surprising. I mean, the thing is, I thought it was 3,000, but really it's more like 3,500, which we always knew the price was crazy big. And it's just even for Apple, which I do really like a lot of Apple products. Even for Apple, it's an insane proposition to put out there. I think they maybe should have waited and come up with something a little bit cheaper, or something. And anyway, so I don't know. I think it probably doesn't really. It definitely doesn't bode well for VR, but I really don't think it's that big of a hit to it because this was always something sort of. To be honest, it was just kind of silly to put that kind of a price tag on it for that capability to me. But anyway, I was wondering what you thought about this.
Uh, Indifferent, I guess. I never really saw it as a VR thing per se. It's more
Mm,
like an AR, toy. I mean, I couldn't anything that was productive usefulness of it. I never would be in that wheelhouse. I mean, I could see you using it for anything like 3D modeling, or if you wanted to do some sort of like architecture thing. I mean, yeah, that's all great and good for what it is, but Apple, I'm not a big Apple fan. It's not saying their products aren't good. I just think that for a lot of things, they're overly priced, and what you buy into the ecosystem, and it's really well integrated, so you get that. That's awesome. Uh, but at the same time, I just haven't been able to be convinced in a lot of ways that to for my purposes to switch over to an Apple. I mean, maybe it's one of those things that if I ever took the plunge and learned to actually learn the OS and stuff properly, then I would be a convert. But that's not going to happen anytime soon because I just not going to. Why buy that when I can buy a PC? And phones are phones. The way they phased out my iPad, uh, never really set right with me.
mm,
They kind of it was the bogging it down and making it inaccessible to really swap out the battery conveniently and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just not the biggest uh, supporter of them, in that sense. I bought my mom one, just a laptop, just because I'm like, hey, this is going to be easier for you to use probably, and it's going to be less likely to catch anything from those third party Russian sites where you want to watch your K dramas and stuff like that.
right.
So there you go. Uh, as far as this goes, I actually didn't. I forgot that there wasn't a like non-pro version. They just called it the Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Uh, and the thing that I was most concerned about was about a month ago, like 3, 4 weeks ago now, they mentioned, in the gaming space how there was supposed to be PlayStation using their PSVR 2 controllers were supposed to be able to be somehow adapted to the Vision Pro. So if you needed an actual like game controller, you'd be able to buy and use PlayStation controllers for VR, and that's great because PlayStation VR 2 has no means at this time to buy extra controllers. So if my controller, if I punch a wall and I break my controller, if the battery somehow shorts or the button, if I get joystick drift or anything, I spill soda on it or something, uh, I have to send it into Sony and then get it replaced, and then pay them whatever fee to fix or replace it. Or I have to buy a whole new PSVR2 unit and then just stash the headset away and just use my second set of controllers. Um, and so the idea of like them using Sony controllers uh, for the Apple, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It'll probably be expensive for the controllers. Then I wouldn't be surprised if you're to tell me like, oh yeah, the two set of controllers is going to be like $100 or 120. I'm like, that tracks. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think it shouldn't be any more than 100, considering the fact that an average dual shock controller now is like what 60, probably $70 most of the times.
Yeah.
So if you were to say the two controllers was 100 or 120, I really wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it'd be available, that'd be great. I didn't look into it to see if it actually released, but they were supposed to be like there was a lot of murmurs about it. And but now that they're, slowing the production down or stopping the production of the Vision Pro, I'm like, I still shouldn't theoretically stop them from doing this whole thing with the Sony controllers because the headsets that are already out there. They'll be able, and you'd be able to use whatever application that would hopefully still work.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not the only when you have a high end product for such a niche thing. Uh, yeah, you're going to have overstock. So either they're going to have to learn to blow them out at a decent price and take the loss, which in the end, long run, will actually save them money because the warehouse fees and stuff, storage stuff, probably cost you more anyways.
Mm.
Uh, but then again, it's Apple we're talking about here, so they have the kinds of money and means in which kind of hard for me to fathom. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's give or
It
take.
it just seems like a weird sort of misstep, and I don't really feel like VR is in the place for Apple users, the typical Apple user. Like if you're somebody that has a if you're somebody that has a MacBook and maybe like an iMac, um, and you have a iPhone and you have a tablet, and you have a an iPad, whatever, um, and you have your AirPods. Even then, if you have all that stuff, I think when you have all that stuff, especially the iMac, you are the least likely to be like, I want to get this Vision Pro, because all those things are out of convenience, and you don't want to mess with other things. You're really not. It's weird to say, but you're really probably less of a tech person um, when you have all of those things just from Apple. So if you have all that and you're less of a tech person, and they come out with a $3,500 VR thing, they're gonna be like, how does this fit into my life? How does this make sense for me? Um, and all of the actual VR people who are still tinkering with it and doing a lot of the heavy lifting on PC and kind of pioneering it, because there's still plenty of jank in VR, even in mainstream VR. They're going to look at it and be like, yeah, we're good. We already have, I mean, like, we already have, if you're in VR on PC, you probably have a pretty dang good PC. You probably have, 2 or 2.5 grand in your PC. And you probably already have a headset of some kind, and you're looking at the Vision Pro, and you're like, you're going to me to pay basically for my whole setup again for something that doesn't really do anything that I need, Um, so it just seemed like a weird move to me, because usually they wait for it to get whatever this technology is, for it to get pretty good, and then they come out with their trump card or their version of it. And this, and it's not like VR is, you know, brand new, but there's still a lot of innovation, I think, that still needed to happen before Apple could find their place in the ecosystem of it. And yeah, and that, and like, I don't know what the video game situation on Vision Pro was, but I feel like video games are a very strong part of VR in general. And I didn't see a lot of front facing part of that. It was like, talk to people in your living room while you walk around, and watch a movie with a big screen and stuff like that. So it was sort of like, yeah, but how is that worth $3,500? But it's like, oh, you now have a really awesome video game experience, and you don't even need controllers. You just have your hands. Um, that would have been a bigger selling point to me. But anyway, so I just thought that was kind of interesting that they are stopping production, and I'm interested to see what happens next. But yeah,
All right. Well, what else you got for us?
next up, maybe this comes as no surprise. GTA 6 projected to make billions in the first year. I think somebody said 3 billion, I think on IGN or something. It makes sense to me. Um, I guess. So, uh, I mean, it's going to be the biggest game of the year, right? Like it's kind of like a foregone conclusion. Maybe the biggest sales wise of the decade, um, probably. But I don't know. I guess this is just what people do. But I, I'm kind of coming across this like, maybe we should just let it come out first and then decide if it's going to be this super mega hit. But maybe there's just so many people working on it that this is what everyone's just betting on. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you one of the things I saw was like uh, it's on track to theoretically have 1 billion in sales and pre-orders alone, which
Oh,
is
that's it. Yeah.
crazy. And then the other one is, yeah, they're talking about 3 billion within the first year. Not too crazy considering the fact that was it GTA 5? It was like day one was like 800 million and 1 billion within the first 3 days or something like that. So
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
uh,
then
not
yeah,
much of a stretch.
yeah, that is kind of silly. Then I mean, if GTA 5 made that much, then I mean GTA 6 is going to be 10 times that. So it might. I mean, really, 3 is going to be too small. If that is accurate on GTA 5, it sounds like it'll probably make 1 billion the first day. My goodness.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you're also looking at the fact that plus nowadays there's more gamers out there. I mean, was it 2013 was when GTA 5 came out. So it came out for the PS3 generation of consoles, and that's granted they've made their money back then some. It's become the new Doom where it's on every other thing that comes out. And, see
yeah,
how much they that or Skyrim, and yeah, I'm not that surprised. I'm curious about it. I hope the characters. I just couldn't get behind GTA 5. I tried multiple times to really get into it. I bought it when it first came out, PS3, and then I just couldn't get that far into it without really. I don't know. It's just something about it. And then I played it again on Game Pass. Uh, yeah, tried really getting into it. Made it. I don't know, maybe not quite halfway. Um, and something about the characters, or at least Trevor in particular. Like I don't know, they didn't stick with me as much as like uh, GTA 4's Nico Bellic. I mean, like Nico
yeah,
is still one of my favorite characters of the GTA series. Granted, Vice City is always a classic, but that's because it's just making fun of Scarface, and that's just so it was pretty easy. But also, I was much younger then too, so that kind of style just really spoke to me more.
right.
Uh, and I like open worlds. I don't know, maybe I'm kind of curious to see how the new GTA coming out with a lot of the main guys no longer there, they've lost a few of them, it's like, was it Dan Houser and stuff like that? There's
Mm.
been some shifts. So I'm just really curious to see what comes of it. Granted, the teaser trailer came out was a bunch of like true to life, TikToks and stuff like that made into video game format. There's a really good comparison video, like side by side, of all the clips between real world, shorts and that trailer. I'm like, all right, so there's obviously they still got the satire, but will they actually have the chops to pull off a decent story? Um, I mean, so long as they got the online formula gun, they're just going to make banks of money now too. So
Yeah.
more shark cards for everyone. So
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of online stuff, and that's where they really make their money. And there's all the microtransactions and stuff to do, outside the story. I just hope that they don't abandon the story, or that there's a healthy and robust campaign of some kind to go do and kind of just like screw around, because like the multiplayer stuff I can kind of take or leave. I know that's where all the money is, though, so that's kind of what makes me nervous about it. But I think that it's going to be, and maybe this is sort of obvious to say, but I think it's going to be sort of a Elden Ring type of video game unification moment, where it's like everybody that plays games is going out to play this game, and Elden Ring probably is more niche. I feel like this, like I feel like a lot of the, sorry Madden guys, but I feel like a lot of the Madden guys probably didn't play Elden Ring as much. I feel like GTA 6 is going to bring a lot of the RPG nerds out, and a lot of the Madden guys, and a lot of the just just everybody except for maybe the most niche retro Raspberry Pi gamers that are in love with the Commodore 64. Everybody else besides those people are going to come out to try to play this game, and yeah. So I think that's probably going to happen, and um,
I love how you're saying it as if like you say it as a no, Elden Ring moment, and I'm like, obviously it's a GTA moment because Elden Ring is this niche thing that no one really like, only a small people amount of people cared about, and it blew up, and that was the popular point. Just like Monster Hunter World, like finally made Monster Hunter more accessible to the mainstream, as it were.
yeah.
But I'm like, we already discussed GTA 5. It was an event, was a main staple thing, and
Uh,
like, yes, that speaks to
like what I
the
mean by
majority.
like Elden Ring moment is like that's the most recent game that I think approaches this sort of a hype, lead up, zeitgeist. Um, but GTA 5, yeah, that's the most accurate probably thing, because it was already like every time a GTA comes out now, which happens to be only once every 12 years apparently these days. But every time a GTA comes out, it's a huge, huge moment. I think that maybe though GTA 5 didn't come out very long after GTA 4. It was an appropriate length, 4 or 5 years, and not literally a generation and a half or something. Um, almost 2 generations if you think about it, because we're in the PS5 Pro era, which part of the reason they were saying that the PS5 Pro uh, had to come out, or Sony like had to do it, like, or something, was in order to be able to handle GTA 6. I don't know how true that was. It sounds like a thing to say, I guess, but they didn't want it to lag or to suffer on the PlayStation, because of course it was going to be big on PCs. Um, but yeah, anyway, so that's just the closest thing that I can think of to be kind of a a big moment, and I think probably even bigger than GTA 5, because as big as that was, it was still like in cadence. And now, I mean, uh, GTA 6 is, I think it's just going to be bigger, you know?
Yeah, I mean, just to be fair though, it was 7 years between 4 and 5. So that was, it's still a pretty big gap. I mean,
Yeah,
granted, Rockstar earned themselves so much credit at that point when I remember when GTA 5 coming out, they they did the I'm pretty sure they did the announcement to the announcement. And
oh,
that's what they did this time. They're like, yeah, we're gonna announce this date is when we're gonna announce the first news of it or something like that. The title. It's like, they really gone all in and about teasing the fans, and people buy it up. Like they love it. It's kind of a sick marketing twist.
I hate it.
It's just the opposite. It's the most minuscule drip feed there
It's
is.
the worst.
Uh, but at the same time, it could just like I would rather have that, I guess, than like the quote unquote movie thought of like let's just dump the entire story in the trailer and like let you still come and watch it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's gonna be delayed, so it's not a big deal. I mean, for those who don't, well, welcome to the world. This is how it is. It's cute that you're new to life. But yes, there's no surprise if there ever is a delay in a GTA game, and most major properties now. So
I know delays are
in fact,
good, but and I know delays are good. We're supposed to be happy every time they delay a game, but uh, I wish we didn't have to know about them. I wish that it was like, hey, uh, the game's done. We're going to release it next month. That's all I want. But I know everybody makes money when you have the announcement to the announcement because you have so many YouTubers now that every time there's any tiny bit of news, the YouTubers are making so much money off of like, well, now we can talk about the announcement to the announcement, and it's
they can go through every freeze frame of every
uh,
teaser trailer, frame by frame, saying, "Hey, did you see that? Or did you look at this?" And yeah, they break down even the technology.
yeah,
You're like, "Hey, you can look at these reflections, look at the shadows. What do you think they're working with?" Granted, is this pre-rendered? Is this not?
yeah.
Um, I mean, hey, it is what it is. It's just the nature of the beast.
It's just
When you got shareholders and when you got people like investing in your company.
a nicer way to talk about it might be that basically it's water cooler talk. It's coffee machine talk. You're in a YouTube, the internet kind of way. You're logging on and you're letting somebody else kind of talk to you around the water cooler. But hey, did you hear about the announcement to the announcement to the announcement of GTA 6? It's like, yeah, I did. It looks like they have, this or that. So I guess it's the same thing, but uh, it's irritating to me anyway. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's gonna be fun.
All right. Well, what's next, man?
A little another leak for the Switch 2. We're gonna know everything about the Switch 2 before it actually comes out. But it seems like they're probably going to use AI upscaling to render in 4K while the Switch 2 is docked. So it's probably, I think, what do we think? It's going to be like a 1080 screen whenever it's handheld, and but then docked 4K. So, and obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but likely the Switch itself, or whatever they end up calling it, Switch 2, is not going to have enough juice on board to render like natively at 4K, because that just seems like a very tall task for a Nintendo product at this point. Um, but an AI upscaler or something like that, I'm like, okay, that's cool. As long as it just doesn't look like total junk on my TV, on my 4K TV, then I'll be more or less okay with it. And even like Switch games, they don't look good, but they don't look just absolutely awful either whenever I'm playing them on my TV. So it was never going to be a really big problem for me, but I was breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief, and then just kind of also just lamenting that we're still getting all of our information from leaks when they could probably announce something or have announced something real by now. But yeah, so yeah, a little bit of more news on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that the counter rumor is also it's going to be weaker or not as high spec as most people are thinking, due to the AI. So,
Oh,
I mean,
I mean, that's like a good guess. Like, I don't know what, I mean, like you're talking about people who are like, welcome to the world. Like, I mean, if you think it, like whatever your expectations are for a Nintendo hardware product, lower them. Just, I'll do you a favor. I'll give you a good piece of advice to do yourself a favor. Just lower your expectations because it's going to be less than you think. It's going to be less than it should be. All of the things that you're going to cry about in the future, less. It's less than that, and it's more expensive. So, yeah. So if you're entertaining that out there, just don't. But anyway, sorry.
yeah,
I'll stop
I'm
my
I'm
rant.
more curious about the uh what the native resolution is going to be on the actual handheld or in handheld mode,
Mm,
because I can see it being 720p native, and then if the screen does better than 720p, then you can just upscale it to if it is in fact a 1080 screen or something like that, then you just upscale it to 1080 because it's quite common to upscale from 720 to 4K.
mm-hmm,
uh, it's not not the greatest, but also Nintendo, depending on the games, the art style, how they're doing it. Because if they're not doing cyberpunk level graphics. They're doing Mario and cartoony or like the claymation look of the new Zelda or something like that. So if they have a certain art style, it might help it to be easily convertible to a higher scaling and not look like garbage. Essentially, is what it is.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was something weird like 900p or something. 720p would also not be surprising. Um, I would hope that it would go ahead and be 1080. Because I mean, the level of technology that they would have to leave out in order to keep it at 720p sounds striking to me. That I mean, if it's like what are we getting if not even um, 1080 or like a 900 or something like that. It's some sort of higher resolution. Because if you're not doing that, then what are we even having the Switch 2 for? It's like what
For the frame rates that they can't keep up with currently, that would be the big thing.
I
You're getting an AI bump in resolution, and if you're actually getting a stable frame rate for the basic games that, because right now the Switch isn't capable of reliably doing that on all their new games.
yeah.
So
I mean,
it's one of those things that Nintendo will make it work, and Nintendo fans will blind faith buy. The fans for that are the fans like for Apple. They're in on day one, sight unseen, just on pure cult mentality. So which is good until they come out with something. Any company comes out with something that is just uh, like a fire show, and then they're like, yeah, all right, well, we got burned, we're going to go in for round two. We're going to do it again, and then
uh,
after we get burned a second time, then we'll think twice.
I mean, to your
Um,
point, I think the Switch 2 could be a critical flop. It could be critically panned, and still sell really well just because of the success of the first Switch. Um, but I just I mean, like my expectations are low, and I think 1080p is extremely low. I think that they're more likely to I mean, nobody like to me, none of the major companies really care about frame rates because your peon level filthy casual doesn't care about frame rates as much as they care about pixel resolution. So we're I think we're going to stay at 30, chugging 30. Um, in exchange for a 1080 whenever it's handheld. But I did just go on a rant about how you should lower expectations. So yeah, maybe we'll probably go backward. We'll just go to 600p or like 480 or something like that, and then and that will
Once
be.
again, why use the GPU space for a 1080 screen when you can render it at 720, but then AI upscale it, but then use the other remaining power for shading, for lighting, for other things, and then also to make it run at least a minimum of stable like 30 frames, consistently. That's just saying. That's like don't be and if being a smaller in a handheld form factor, chances are you won't be able to notice the difference.
I mean,
So yeah.
I would say that you're a fool, but I think that you're tapped right into Nintendo's brain trust, probably with those kind of things. I mean, it wouldn't be too surprising, but yeah, we'll see how I it will be a hopefully we I mean I like what we talking I know I said something last year around this time that we were probably going to hear we're probably going to get the announcement or something for Switch 2. I'm flabbergasted that we are still in.
We were so wrong about that. We thought it'd be out by now,
I know,
and
like,
without a
what's
doubt.
going on? I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, why isn't it out? It should have been out in November. It's gonna be the same thing with a couple more added things. What are they doing? They have no games. Like, they it's inexplicable. Um, so yeah, there's that.
All right. And what else you have?
Last thing, a little bright spot. Awesome Games Done Quick is this weekend. As we record, it's going to be on maybe as of today, but it's going to be on I guess 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, or maybe 1/4, 1/5, or January 4th and 5th at least. So that's always fun. So go tune into that and donate if you have some spare change. Um, and yeah, so it's always fun to see those, and we'll see which awesome games are done quick and how quick they're done. Probably next week.
Yeah, those are always fun to see, especially when you get a new record or something like that. But just the skill level required for a lot of those people, it's
It's
just
crazy.
amazing. Uh,
They're some people are built different, and those are professional athletes and people that do awesome games done like can like do those pixel perfect, glitch things to beat a game in 38 seconds that it took you 138 hours to beat. So anyway,
well, all right. So it looks like on the 5th, the last one for the night is going to be the Night Springs DLC for Alan Wake 2.
oh,
Uh, so
watch
I'm
them.
kind of curious about that one.
Yeah, it's also. I mean, I'm not the first person to say this, but it's also kind of sad to like watch somebody just like eviscerate one of your favorite games. Just like I like this game, and they just like blow past every good memory that you have about it. Just like like walk, man, this boss was so hard. They don't even they just walk past him, swing their sword like 3 times, and just keep going. And the boss is dead, and they're
Oh,
moving on.
then they're gonna follow it with just after midnight. So on Monday the 6th, it looks like they're doing the Lake House DLC for Alan
Mm,
Wake 2. So 1201. So yeah,
stay up
that'll be
late,
interesting
watch that.
for me to see for sure. Uh, so yeah, it looks their dates are a little skewed here because I'm seeing 5th, 6th, 7th. Um, it looks like or it's going through all the way through the 11th. So the 5th through the 11th.
Okay.
Um, so yeah. Anyways, most definitely give their website a look up and see what you can highlight what you want. They're going to be doing the new Silent Hill as well through Silent Hill 2 remake. Uh, it'll be watching stuff like that is always pretty awesome. Just you know, I don't know. I kind of want to put a betting pool down, seeing how fast you think big someone can get it.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, because
but
like
all
all the
right,
new games will probably have world records set, you know. So that'll be fun. Just to be like, okay, now that's the world record. So go out and beat that. Have fun.
Yeah, one of my favorites to this day, I still remember, is the when they did the blindfold Mike Tyson's Punch Out, or just regular Punch Out speed run,
Mm.
like two guys head to head blindfolded. I'm like, that just seemed like madness to me. It's just like, and then of course you really get the feel for the commentators who actually know what they're talking about when it comes to those games, because they'll be talking about certain strats and tricks. I'm like, I never knew that, and like that was always one of my favorite games. But knowing you pick up some certain things along the way, like that will help me out just in normal gameplay, not even speedrunning context. Unlike like when they physically break a game, like the 64 games, and then you're like they warp through the worlds and stuff like that's just fun to watch. Uh, but it's not practical to do. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for reminding me, because I honestly, the last couple times I've kind of missed it, and then I've just had to go back and look through their archive essentially.
Yeah. I
So
usually
I
miss
always
it,
like
but
to
you know,
I always like to at least leave it on in the background, even if I'm doing something else, just to give it an extra viewer count, because extra support that you can give.
it's
All
good.
right. Well, what have you been playing now, sir?
So I think I'm pretty much done with the Stellar Blade DLC. I went through and got the costumes and stuff. Most of the ones that I wanted. I think the ones that are left are I got. I think I still would have to get uh, 9S and maybe a couple of like a mask or something like that. So I might go back and do a little bit more of it. But it got me to go back and revisit a lot of Stellar Blade as well. I had just started a new game plus, so I had to go through a large portion of the game just to be able to have a chance to get the DLC. Um, so it was fun to revisit and stuff like that, and playing it on hard has been fun as well. I also managed to get started to get a little bit better at what I think of as the deeper knowledge of the game. Like through the first run, I did everything pretty much based on parrying and just blocking and stuff like that. And now, so I was doing a lot of that, but now I'm getting more into the combos where I would do combos and stuff before, but now I'm doing the ones that you don't have to expend the beta energy to get, where it's like back square, forward triangle, down circle, and then you do like something like extra. So it was cool to sort of go, okay, this is like I can do this now, and sort of like internalizing the game more. So, but yeah, I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad it existed. If nothing else, just to support both Shift Up and Yoko Taro, and Monaka as well. So um, yeah, it's been it was a good little foray into that game again. But besides that, I also got into a little game called Dave the Diver. Um, I'm a bit hesitant to talk about this game now because I'm pretty sure I'm not done with it. It has been the most easy game to pick up and play that I have had in a while. Um, so Dave the Diver it's basically a 2D, um, I don't know, like a sim sort of. That's probably not the right word, but basically you're a guy named Dave, and you're a sea diver. So you dive down in the water, and you for simplicity of it, you kill fish and find treasures, materials, and stuff during the day, and then at night you help to run a sushi restaurant. So you supply the restaurant with sushi, and yeah. So like when I first heard about this game, I think like I was like, Dave the Diver. I think you were like, yeah, people are saying it's a really really good game, and I was like, okay, well, whatever. So I think it finally was available on PlayStation Plus Extra, and so I picked it up. And even when I started playing it, I was like, I don't know how much I want to play this, but it was probably about an hour, and it got its hooks in me pretty good. Um, and I just sort of kept playing and playing, and uh, I'm pretty far into it. I think I'm in like chapter 2 or chapter 3. The chapters are kind of long, um, but yeah, I do. I've been enjoying it a lot, doing a lot of runs. They they give you a lot to do, and they just kind of keep giving you things. Um, and the complexity of the game builds up in a satisfying way. The only thing I would say about it, which is not really a big knock, I wish that they had maybe given me one or two more runs at the beginning of the game to kind of get used to what I was doing or to settle into like the loop. Because early on, they throw a lot of stuff at me, like they were throwing stuff at me that it's not like it was complicated. It was like, I don't care. Just let me go and dive and hunt for fish like one more time before you make me do something else. Um, so that was like a little bit of an annoyance, but then after I got past that part, it was kind of smooth sailing. I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool, and oh, that's cool, and oh, now I can do this too. So yeah, very good. I know this was a big game back in 2023, like when it came out, but I only just now am discovering it, and I can confirm that it is quite good. Have you played it yet, or did you already talk
Yeah.
about this?
So I played it a while ago. I was interested. I talked about it a while ago. I'm pretty sure too.
Okay.
Over the summer, the last summer, they came out with the Godzilla free DLC. It
Oh
was a limited time
right.
release. They actually kind of like delisted it like last minute. I don't remember it being originally announced for a limited time, but they ended up delisting it in November. And I mean, Dave the Diver made its way to um, the shift up game, mobile game Nikke. It became they literally turned this phone game, and they have like mini games into it, and they're like, we're just gonna like more or less port Dave the Diver in, but then throw instead of Dave, throw a couple Nikke characters in this pixel format. And that was kind of wild. It's just like, what, this is way more effort than it actually needed to be for a mini game.
Yeah.
You did the day cycles. You went down, you dived, you fished for so long until your either pack was full or you ran out of air or whatever, or you health, and then you go to the sushi bar, and then you did the waitress thing for a bit, and then rinsed and repeated. So it was like a Dave the Diver light, as it were. But it was still pretty impressive, and shows you how going from like Godzilla to Nikke, like it's kind of all over the place, but it hit a peak fervor, obviously, and uh, popularity in a lot of ways. Most definitely, uh, just a simple, easy game to pick up and play, and most people I think would end up finding something they like about it. But yeah, I haven't thought about this game in a while, so the fact that you came around to it now is just like took me off by surprise, and I'm like, oh, okay, yes, PlayStation Extra, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you get a chance to beat it, or did you?
no,
Okay.
I played it for a little bit, and that was it. It was just one of those things that other things came in the way, and I didn't really care enough about it to finish it. I had fun time with it, without a doubt, but it was one of those. I mean, I don't know. It's just there wasn't enough there for me. Like, in order to feel like I have to beat it, like I would have to have a more of a story that it just didn't hit me the right way.
Yeah,
Um,
there's not a ton of story. There's but some of the characters that they introduce are pretty funny, and some of they have like cutscenes and stuff. It's all 2D and pixeled, but the cutscenes that they do are pretty unique and interesting. And after you see them the first time, you can skip them, I think. But yeah, I think the loop of it is really good. Like a lot of times, I'll go fish, and then and I'll be looking to turn the game off. Like, oh, no, I'll go do something else now. But I'll fish, and then it'll be time to go to the restaurant. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just do one more like restaurant run, and then it's like, oh, I finished the restaurant. Oh, I'll do one more fish run. It's just this very nice, tight, perfect loop of like, well, just one more little thing. There's a couple extra things that I could do. So I really appreciate the game for that aspect, I would say.
Yeah, it kind of fills that same niche as something like a Stardew Valley in a lot of ways. It's just, it's a nice, simple game that doesn't have, crazy high stakes or anything like that, but it's just something comfortable to play. And it can just occupy just kind of a simple space in your life. Uh, but also like Stardew, it's like there's more to there if you want it, but it's like at the same time, I've never beaten that game, and I put a lot of time into that in the past. Uh,
Mm.
just one of those things that I just don't have time, for certain things like that. I guess uh, I'm wasting my time watching a bunch of anime that I live to regret. So yes, obviously, time used wisely. Uh, and then I turn around and say, "Hey," when you're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about watching this," I'm like, "Don't do it. Just don't do it." You know,
Yeah, I probably should have
let my
consulted you
suffering
before I
be the
watched
warning.
Beastars.
So,
Well, at least the second season and that first season was pretty all right. Anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, we have to waste our lives on some amount of crappy anime. So yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get stuck.
yeah. It's funny though because you were talking about going through the Stellar Blade DLC, and in my brain, I'm like, "Oh wait, are you talking about like I thought you had already finished the Near DLC a while ago?" So I'm like, "Are you talking about just jumping back in because you wanted the Christmas nighty that you get now for the
I, d-
new Christmas update?"
I did it did coincide with the near DLC that I was playing, so I was able to get those Christmas gifts. They had like it was a pretty fun little thing. They had in the town center. They had a big Christmas tree, and they had presents and stuff. And you go and you pick them up, and yeah, that's fun. I will say, going back to the Stellar Blade DLC, is I did get way more into the photo mode. That's probably been the biggest thing and the biggest time sink for the Stellar Blade DLC, or for getting back into Stellar Blade rather, is the photo mode stuff. Like once did that and I was going back to the game, I was like, dang, because there's a lot of really good lighting. Um, there's a lot of really cool, like sort of, I don't know, stuff going on. So that actually has taken up a lot of my time too. But anyway, yeah. So
Stellar Blade, lighting, and stuff taking up a lot of
and
Nick's time. Okay.
stuff, yeah, lighting and stuff, yeah.
Just like the way the light glistens off of. No, all right, I see what you're getting at. You spent a lot of
You
time in it.
picking up what I'm putting
Roger
down?
that. You should start posting those photos. Just saying. Show the world what your hobbies are.
I thought about
Uh,
it, but then I was like, you know what? You guys don't deserve it. So,
you could have made them. You could have made them to your Christmas card for the whole family to enjoy. All
uh,
right.
yeah.
Speaking about spending time with family, so for me, one of my good friends ended up picking me up a board game. Actually, I doubt it's going to show on the camera too well because of
Just put
autofocus.
it right
But
in front of your face
yeah,
and leave it
all
there.
right, yeah. So it's hi-fi.
Okay.
So this is so it's a simple board game having to do with you're a music producer, and it's by Smirk and Dagger Games. I believe it's the same people who do Carcassonne. Uh, and the idea is there was a band called the Meeples, and I believe the Meeps are what you call the little people, like the figures you move in Carcassonne. They look like little star people,
Right.
and
Yes.
so the uh, the idea is that it's a up to 4 player game, and your goal is to kind of produce tracks. You have 4 tracks you get to lay down, and you have random. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this any favors by explaining it, but I'll try to keep it really quick because of it. Uh, and so it's kind of a weird quasi deck building kind of game. Or essentially you have a bassist, a guitarist, a vocalist, and a drummer, and the cards that you get randomly have different sound waves, and so you can kind of and you'll have certain objective cards. You'll have your end of track, like, or end of game objectives, but also you'll have certain objectives you can kind of complete as you go along. And you'll get bonuses for, say, playing two of the same musicians back to back. So two bass guitars, um, as you lay them on the field on the track, and the tracks are like, depending on how many players you have, can be 5 or 6 cards wide. So you get bonuses for laying, like I said, two of the same musician back to back, or playing where this sound wave is either a high, medium, or low. So it's like, okay, well, the one card ended at a medium, and my card's I'm gonna play it right afterwards, and you can play it anywhere you want on the track. So I can lay my first card down on number 3, right in the middle, or something like that. And then so someone can play it before or after mine. Um, but essentially, you're trying to make enough combos and trying to get enough. You end up getting a points. There's a points counter system. So in the end, whoever has the most points wins, essentially. But honestly, it seems really difficult to learn. But I have to give props to I believe the name is called Dized tutorial, Dized,
Mm,
and it's an app. It's one of the first times I think I've ever played a brand new game, and I'm pretty sure I played it correctly. Because usually when you play a board game and you're reading the rules for the first time, you're screwing something up. But this
yeah.
tutorial was a play along tutorial. You told them how many people you had, and you kind of went step by step saying, "Hey, here's your options of what you get to do." And it's kind of funny because as you're building, part of the board game, you have your mixing track. That's your board play field, but they actually have a full on uh, cardboard record and needle, tone arm. So you move the tone arm, you're spinning the record to indicate what your next turn is going to be. You have
Hmm.
a couple options. So as we're moving the record, uh, of course, we kind of made it a house rule that you kind of have to make some sort of scratching or some sort of singing. You have to either sing or do something, but make some no sort of noise indicator that you're turning the record. Uh,
That's a nice
yeah,
rule.
as stupid as it is, but it's always a fun house rule to do something weird like that. And uh, this tutorial, once again, just step by step, it followed along. We had it synced to our TV, so we had it playing out loud. And after maybe 3 or 4 turns, we're like, okay, we totally got the hang of this now. And it went pretty smoothly. It was one of those games that's like, yeah, this is actually not nowhere near as hard as you think it is, but it's a lot of fun. And yeah, we ended up playing that one quite a bit. So
That's
yeah,
good. I
just
mean,
want to give a
like,
shout out to it.
because like a lot of times, I mean, that's sort of the biggest knock to me on board games is like the first time you play a board game, it's not that it's not fun. It's just not. It's just going to be a lot of slog as well. A lot of kind of like okay, well, then, okay, and then it's even the second time. It's not until like that third or fourth time where board games like really get good, where everybody knows what they're doing and there's like a level of strategy to it and stuff like that. But and then I mean, you also need like 3 or 4 players or whatever. So it's really good that they designed that game to be fun and to feel like you got a full, honest game out of it, even on the first try.
Yeah, it's always a tedious thing when you're trying to invite friends over for a board game, and you're like, "Yes, we're gonna play this game, Betrayal on the House on the Hill." We're like, "All right, so here's what you got to do before you come over. I'm gonna recommend you do homework. You should probably watch one of this video at very least. It's only gonna be like an hour, hour and a half long. But
Yeah.
then you should probably watch a second video, which is also an hour long. But that way you get a really good understanding of how the game works. And then when you come to play, we'll still go over the rules again, but you'll at least have a kind of an understanding of what's going
Well, like, what was that
on."
video? I feel like you sent me a YouTube video of those guys, a skit video of those guys being taught to play a board game, and it was like every time jumped every few minutes or whatever, and it was all the stuff that you say and think and feel as you're learning to play a board game, and I thought it was gosh, if you could find that again and say what it is, people should go watch it because it was pretty spot on. But anyway, yeah. Oh, probably
Yeah,
for,
it was a YouTube, Auntie and Donna skit, and yeah, they it's, like, kinda explaining board games to a friend. I can't remember the exact title of it, but
but
it's
Auntie and
it's
Donna
pretty.
explaining board games to friends. You probably be able to find that because it's like 3 dudes. Anyway, it's definitely worth watching if you can find it.
Yeah, and I feel that it does encapsulate the feel of and the frustration of explaining a game to a friend. Like, one of the guys is like, I gotta leave in like half an hour, and the other, it's just like,
It's like,
it's like, are you watching football? Like, no. Like,
yeah, I forgot. I have
yeah,
to leave at half an hour. It's like, what do you do? This is like a 4 hour game. What are you doing?
it's like it goes, all right, we're starting out. I'm the dice master, and the next scene is like, who's the dice master? You are. No, 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 you are. It's just like, wait, what? Yeah, it's such a good little bit, and you should the way they cobble together like 6 different real life board games, to
Yeah.
make the skit work. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Alright, but yeah, unfortunately, that's been about it because being hosting, with friends and family and taking care of the kids and stuff like that, we just hadn't had a lot of time for major gaming since the what we recorded, like, 5 days ago?
Major gaming.
So, yeah. Um, alright, we have here, now we've gotten to what we've been watching. All right. You finally got around to finishing one of the better anime of this last season.
Yeah. So yeah, I just finished it a few hours ago. Dan to Dan. And you're right. It does. So
Did you just
spoilers.
say Dan to Dan? You you lived in Japan. You speak at a decent Japanese level and you say Dan to Dan.
Dan to Dan. Hot Dan to Dan. Don to Don. I mean, yeah. I could say it like that. I mean, okay. So if we want to get off on this, you asked for this. There are certain things like that I say with an English accent, with an American accent, even though they're Japanese words. Like I don't really want to say manga. I know I do sometimes. I prefer to say manga, and I say anime instead of anime. I mean, that's sort of just where I'm at with it. And Dan to Dan just has a better ring to it than Dawn to Dawn to me. So yeah, that's fair.
I mean, there's a whole
That's
theme song that just
Dawn to Dawn.
so it goes right along with it, so
Dan to Dan. I don't know. It's I think it's more endearing if I say it the way that I say it. So anyway, but so as not to offend your very very sensitive
I just
sensibilities.
expect more from you, and I know that's my fault. I shouldn't expect anything from you, but there's expectations from a person who's lived there and who actually has taken the grading, the testings there. So yeah,
I I'm like Nintendo. Whatever your expectations are, whatever your expectations are for me, lower them. So Dawn to Dawn, there may be spoilers that we talk about here, and I already said the word spoilers earlier, so you've had plenty of time to rip the earbuds out. Um, anyway, so yeah, it did have quite a cliffhanger, like you mentioned. I could see, episode what was it, episode 12 was coming to kind of an end. There's a couple things going on, and I was like, oh dang, Joe was right. This is going to have quite a cliffhanger, especially when the thing happened, which I'll go ahead and say the new guy knocks a hole in a wall, and they look inside, and there's papers lining the inside of the actual, the wall thickness, and they look through, and then the whole the whole room, that there's like a whole room behind the hole that they created, and it's all lined with papers that have weird words written on them.
they're like talismans, is what I
Talismans,
get
yeah.
the vibe of. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like that, and then it kind of like, like looks like the two guys like look at each other, and then she's in a whole different predicament that we probably shouldn't talk about on YouTube. But yeah. So and then that's where it ended, and
she's
I was
fighting
like,
in her own sin. We'll just leave it at that.
she is, yeah, dealing with some problems of her own sin, and yeah. So the cliffhanger they left it on, if it was really going to be like if it was really going to be like a 2 year or 3 year thing to wait for, or even a year, it would be kind of kind of annoying. But knowing that that the next part's gonna come out in what, like July? Is that what they said?
Yep, July. July's the next. They just did a teaser trailer for it about a week or 2 weeks ago, and it shows just a little bit of what to expect. So it gives some little extra spoilers there. But yeah, it's supposed to be July
Yeah,
2025.
yeah. So having that, because if it was a year, I would probably have forgotten a lot, and I would almost be annoyed by having to just jump right back. I mean, 6 7 months is bad enough, but having to jump like right back in the middle of such a cliffhangery spot after a year would be kind of annoying maybe in this day and age. So I'm glad it's going to come out, the new one. I guess it's a pretty, I mean, I guess it's a pretty big hit. I don't, I don't hear a lot of people talking about anime in my, like at my job, but this is one of the shows that I did hear people talking about. Hey, have you heard about Dawn to Dawn? It is really, it's like really good. And I'm like, oh dang, they're watching it too. So, yeah, apparently people are really liking it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, overall the quality is just really solid. Character development is there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it was really weird though because they don't introduce the new guy until like episode 12. No, yeah, something like that, or the end of episode 11, episode 12, and you're like, I've been seeing him in the opening credits for like the entire time now.
Oh yeah.
So like, yes, it's like when are they bringing him in? They finally do it. And it's like, are they gonna wrap this thing up in a couple episodes? Nope. And it's like, yeah, I feel there's a couple of anime this season that just straight up cliffhanger endings. But pretty much they must all know that they're being made. But once again, it just feels so I don't know, early 2000s, late 90s anime where it's just like back then you just never knew what was going to happen and you didn't have there wasn't the social media to go behind. You're like, I hope that they just come out with something eventually. If not, oh well. And so uh
Like, are you talking about
yeah.
like the minute to minute things that happen in the show?
Well, the quality of series as a whole is awesome. But as far as the cliffhanger stuff or how the old stuff, yeah, how it relates to old anime,
Okay.
used to just end. Like
Oh, and will
you
that?
like
Yeah, will it even exist? Is it done?
yeah, it's
Is
just
it
like it
okay? Yeah.
was you were never guaranteed to get a conclusion. You were never, and especially back in the days of like OVAs where they're just little short snippets and you may not
Yeah.
get a whole series or season of anything.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that's kind of like what I grew up on VHS.
yeah. I mean, those
So
guys are
yeah.
just trying to keep the lights on half the time. So they, yeah, it's, yeah, it's good that we at least got that information. Um, and we should be getting. I mean, it's on Netflix and it was like straight to Netflix, So, um, they usually go. They pay, I guess, more, and they're a bit more picky about the anime that comes there. So it's at least when it comes out brand new. So it struck me as probably being pretty good, and I had heard a long time ago about, before it was an anime, um, that it was a really strong manga, and that people were like, "Hey, that manga is really good, and we can't wait. Really hope they make um a show out of it here soon." Because it was like, oh man, it's so good and all that stuff. So whenever I did finally see the show coming out, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty awesome. But yeah, I think the characters, the main two, are good, are the most solid. The grandma is great, and everybody else is a little bit more um, tropey, but they serve their role pretty well, and they're at least there for, like their tropiness is there to be like funny and stuff like that. And then like the grandma being like the other grandma or the other old lady being stuck inside the Nyan cat or whatever, um, is is hilarious. Like the stuff that she says is pretty great.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah.
dude, when they have the Silky backstory episode, is like that hit so hard. That was just like, dang, dude. Like they show the range of what they can pull off.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that one. Yeah, that was like where she disintegrated at the end, like where the pink
Uh,
haired girls get their
yeah,
powers?
but is it's but when you just the opening, the whole first part of the episode is just the backstory, like the flashback sequence. Um, but also the quality animation, just just banging the entire time. Uh, as far as I see what you mean by slight tropey, but they pull out references left and right that like aren't meant for the U.S. Doing the whole calling the grandma Kimpachi, and as she's, and it's just like, dude, I haven't thought of Kimpachi Sensei since I was a foreign exchange student, man. That was like in '01, '02 or something like that. And it's just like, that was a major deal. That was like a really good show. But it's all, it's gone on for generations too. And it's just like, I remember talking to classmates about that. And so it's just like, dang, dude, no one's going to pick up that reference. That's not from Japan.
It went over my
Um,
head. I didn't even
yeah,
hear
and
him
it's
say it.
essentially it's just all it is a daytime drama, or essentially like where it's a teacher, helping the youth essentially. You got to connect with the kids, and the kids but it's all the
Great
drama the
teacher,
kids go through. It's
GTO
one of the
type
first
stuff.
like yeah, but it's just but he's just a normal middle-aged dude. He's not like, he's not super anything. He's just a super great teacher. That's essentially all it is. He's the dude who cares. Um, yeah. Anyways, it was just like to keep that uh without interpreting that into a new, making it a US localization or a Western, type of replacement. I thought that was a bold choice. You know, it's one of those things that, when you watch an anime, like nowadays, in the olden days, they would actually translate the songs and they would change the singing to, English. They change the words. And now it's like, oh, you'll watch it English dub, and all of a sudden they're like, and we're just gonna have them sing flawlessly in Japanese. Good luck trying to, good luck understanding that one. And it just really is jarring,
Hmm.
but it's cheaper. It's far cheaper to try to do that. Uh, so it's like it's the nature of the beast nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, but once again, it's how much do you change? Do you go ahead and make new localization jokes and stuff to the era? Was that Lunar has the original Lunar Silver Star Story has a infamous Bill Clinton joke. They're just talking referencing Bill Clinton, or like I remember also like, "Don't forget to eat your Wheaties." It was one of the like NPC dialogues,
Mm.
and it's just like, all right. So back then I remember thinking that was really really funny, but really weird because I'm like, they don't have Wheaties overseas, so, it's
Yeah.
a so and that nowadays, it's like most people don't even know what Wheaties is, or they don't have the same popularity as far as, because
It-
the Olympics, you'd be out, the winners would be put on a box. That was like all through the 90s,
yeah, the 80s and
then
90s. Yeah, that was the joke. It's like, oh, he ate his Wheaties or whatever. I mean, that's what that's what we would say when I was a kid. Um, yeah, I think that. I mean, I think that just because there's so much anime and anime is so ubiquitous and you can get so much of the old stuff on demand now, and like all of the hidden gems, get pushed to the forefront. Everything, all the cream rises to the top, super easy. I think that you're going to see more of, and it's why you have seen more of um, those things that would have been changed are now staying in the localization of the anime. Like they're not translating everything. Um, and I really would hope that eventually we can get to a point where like because I feel like I've heard them say they've heard them say it's words like tsundere when the characters are meaning it in that term. Um, and I hope that we can get to a point where they say like itadakimasu, because whenever they try to go like thanks for the meal, I'm just like it's not the same. I get that it doesn't really it's hard to get it figured out, but it doesn't translate. It is a very Japanese thing, and it's a very common thing. Um, I hope that the knowledge of the knowledge of anime and Japanese culture will become enough where we can have at least that one. That's probably the most glaring one. The other one is like where it's like the Tadaima or whatever, which means like I'm home or something like
Yeah,
that.
the "I'm home, welcome home," that doesn't so I feel that that doesn't need to be changed,
That one's not so bad.
and
That one I just know what they're doing. It's the Itadakimasu that's like the most glaring to me, and even then, it's not the end of the world. But that's just my like wish upon a star.
yeah, see, I one of the things is, like, I doesn't it doesn't really bother me with the Itadakimasu one, what bothers me is when you have them referring to each other as "san," and everything else is in English, and
Oh,
they're still using their name and "san," and it's just like, that doesn't fit. I mean, it does, but it also sounds weirder when you're saying, "miss" or "mister," or you have to find the suitable exchange, like, and or they use a sama,
mm-hmm.
and then so therefore they'll have to change it to prince or sir, or like they have to try to maneuver that one, and it's just like
Well, like
there's
the
no right
honorifics,
answer.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
honorifics and stuff like that. Whenever it's like, why are you speaking to me in such a casual way? It's like in English, it just doesn't like we're way too casual just in everyday life. So to translate it normally, it's like I'm not being like rude or whatever, but in Japanese, it's not that it's not rude, but it's also not that it's rude. It's just kind of rude, so it's sort of casual. But to say something is rude in English is like too much. So it's one of those things where to really appreciate anime at some point with anime appreciation, you have to get to a point where you really know what they're talking about, which means you have to really understand at least some of the basics of the cultural part of Japanese language, which it is what it is.
Well, the flip side is some of the reasons why you just leave it as is and you don't mess with it is because the early the early 2000s, you know, uh Saturday morning, anime, the stuff on, like, WB and stuff, the Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, they had a really bad time with some of their translations, interpreting and trying to like, the infamous one, of course, being, Pokemon's, onigiri, which was the rice ball, but they're like, "I have me" they're like, "I had jelly donut," and I'm like, "It's clearly a flipping thing of rice in your hand." Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
so
I want to get closer to just using the Japanese word, and because I think that is I mean, that takes all of us, that takes the mass of people to actually know some Japanese, which is crazy to ask people to do. But if people do become more knowledgeable and we can get to that point, then it'll be smoother to me. But that, like you said, like as long as we don't go backward, where we're just trying to make things that are clearly not jelly donuts into jelly donuts, I think we're in an okay spot.
Well, yeah, it was always one of those things that I'm like, when it comes to any food dish, you should just be allowed to say what it is naturally, because you
Onigiri.
don't need to
Yeah.
rework, a foreign food dish into a Western language. If you were to say borscht, like people know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, you get it at a visual context. And
Yeah.
if you can't see what they're eating, they just talk about having a meal. Well, that's on you.
Yeah.
But you don't have to translate it to you know a soup, or something else. You can
Purple
just
soup,
just
beet
leave
soup.
it,
Yeah.
you know, just
Yeah,
leave
it's
it
like
as
it's like
is.
sushi. Like you don't translate sushi, you just say sushi. If you because it's not an English word. It's become a word that we just use in English, but to translate it, we'd say, "Oh, he's eating raw fish on rice," or "He's eating raw fish." It's that would be silly, because we have that word
Yeah,
now.
I mean, and that's the thing is most people, back then though, also they looked at it as kids are too dumb to understand, and like,
Yeah.
no, kids pick up pretty, younger kids can pick up things fairly quick, especially context clues, like, and also what's so weird about saying rice ball, instead
Yeah.
that was the weirdest one because of
That's
Pokemon just being like, you dumb people.
yeah.
um
That sounds like some people were overworked or something like that, and they were just like overthinking stuff. Anyway,
These kids just don't understand this foreign concept called rice.
I mean,
You
they're
know,
probably having. I mean, to play devil's advocate, they're probably having a hard enough time keeping foreign shows on the air as it was, and there's probably just some. I mean, you know how bad like old suits are even now. Well, back then they were even worse because they were even more, ignorant of the rest of the world. And they'd be like, "We don't, nobody's going to know what a rice ball is. We got to change that. Just say they're eating a jelly donut." And like everyone in the room is probably rolling their eyes, but it's like that's where the money's coming from, so we got to do it anyway.
at least they didn't do the thing what they did with other like Yu-Gi-Oh and One Piece and just like edit it, Photoshop it out
Oh gosh,
because they would do that
across the
with
screen.
weapons. They would take out firearms. It's like so all the Yu-Gi-Oh bad guy henchmen are busting in with their fingers pointed at people and like or like throwing like it's like the ET walkie-talkie bit. It's like, "No, you can show a gun. It's okay. These are bad guys." You know? Uh, I think One Piece was, like, instead of a bullet firing out, it was like a boxing glove, and it hits him, and he dramatically flies backwards. It's just like, that's so sad. Um, I understand not wanna show blood, guts, and gore, but, you should at least show certain things is fine. But when it comes to I mean, things have gotten a lot better. That's all it is the overall level and understanding acceptance of anime is there. So it's no longer an extreme outlier.
Yeah, that's true.
But all right. So I finally got to start watching a little bit more of ReZero. I talked about how I was watching season 2 and how I had finished season 2 part 1,
Hmm.
which was like 13 episodes long. That and that movie. So then season 2, part 2 is another 12 episodes. All of season 2, so 25 episodes could have been done easily within 12. Don't I have no it was a slog. There are certain key good points, usually mostly towards the end. But man, I just felt like it was wasting a lot of time. But now that I'm in season 3, I'm currently 8 out of or there's 8 episodes in English right now, and I'm 6 episodes in.
Hmm.
It moves so much better, so much better. It's actually really fun now. There's a lot happening, and yeah, my only problem with the show is still like more or less the main character. I like the world, the theme, but the main character is this mix between a worthless sack of crap and like God's gift to everything. Like he's OP and he's put together when he needs to be, but then at other times he's just this miserable pile of sadness. And I don't know. But the actual story is moving on. And that in the series, any anime which involves seven deadly sins or some reference to them generally whiffs all the time.
Mm.
With the exclusion of, but still kind of, was it Full Metal Alchemist? Full Metal Alchemist kind of does it right, but at the same time, it just doesn't. It feels a lot of the new shows or a lot of the anime like it just feels kind of wrong, and this one does it especially wrong because they're all I'm like, "You do not really, embody the thing you're trying to do." All of them also do gluttony. Oh, gluttony is just some sort of creature that's eating everybody. Just that's all they do is gluttony just eats people. I'm like, "Okay, gotcha." It's just like, that's the one thing they get for every anime. I'm like, "Alright, that's boring." But this one does, like they do, like, lust, wrath, pride. They all kinda suck. And
Mm.
I'm like, You're I'm just waiting for these villains to be taken down eventually." But the minute to minute, the action happening in each episode is really solid, and it got me interested in it again. It's kind of like, yay, the payoff is kind of here. Um, it was a slow season 2, but a season 3 is moving, and yeah, I mean, I still like this series as a whole. I'm more interested in the world, like what's I'm pot committed at this point. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's just like, hey, at least I'm not suffering through this season 3. So, yay. Totally give it. If you like season 1, I think I think season 2 isn't it's not terrible, it's just slow for me. For me personally, it was just too slow. Uh, but it had some good moments along the way, but, season 3 most definitely makes up for it, I feel.
It's moving a bit
So,
better.
yeah, so if you finished season 1 and you weren't sure, I'm digging season 3, so it'd make it through. And season 1 was solid. Season 1 ended pretty good too, so alright,
Good.
yeah, that's it, for that, and then I got to watch, a movie that came out, was it 20 I think it was 2023? Um, and it was Guy Ritchie's, Covenant. So I that year, actually, it's kind of funny, Guy Ritchie came out with 2 movies that year. One was it Operation Fortune? I believe it was. I talked about that one. Uh, that one was it was okay. It was
Mm,
like a comedy heist kinda movie, and it had, I mentioned it had uh what was it, Carrie Ellis, the guy who plays, in The Princess Bride, like, but it had a lot of big names in it, and it had Hugh Grant playing, like, the best villain, like, character. So I did like it for that, but at the same time, it was just it's a Guy Ritchie movie, it was good. Well, The Covenant, on the other hand, is a set to be like a Afghani, US war movie, and it's the least Guy Ritchie movie I've come to see.
mhm.
I haven't seen all his movies, I've seen quite a few, and I like quite a bit, like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and the Sherlock films,
Yeah, he's
uh,
always kinda got a
Snatch.
I mean, it's not like pure comedy, but it's like a comedic sort of style of cutting and comedic sort of style of of the actors kinda chewing the scenery, like, not in a bad way, but just, like, a little bit of a tongue in cheek kinda way, and the smash cuts are always a very, signature Guy Ritchie move. So, it sounds like those things would not play well in a movie like this. Right. So is it more along? Is it a little bit more, a little more seriously edited and directed compared to the other stuff?
Yeah, it's much it's so the concept or the idea is uh you're essentially following a master sergeant, who is there his original, platoon is, you know, their goal is to look for, IED, facilities, and they've been there for a while, like, couple tours, like, I think they said 5 or something like that, and they haven't been able to find anything. They work with local, uh, interpreters. Uh, Something happens, to their old interpreter, and so they end up getting a new one, and kind of, guy's very confident, but kind of butts heads with, Jake Gyllenhaal, who's the main, he plays, John Kinley, and it becomes like, essentially they have to get through like 100 kilometers of, on foot through Afghanistan, and don't want to spoil too much or give anything lead up to it. The action's good, the directing's solid. I have a problem. I actually don't watch a lot of war movies, modern war movies, because especially after Black Hawk Down, uh, it just feels like a lot of propaganda at times.
Yeah.
It's just like it's for that patriot, it's essentially just patriot porn in a lot of ways. Just like
Mm.
so, I mean, there's a lot of good movies out there. Don't get me wrong, that are current war films and stuff like that. But it's just very hard for me to take my time to want to watch it. And but because it was a Guy Ritchie movie, I was like, "All right, let me just give this a shot." And it's funny because the only real Guy Ritchie-esque thing they do is they only do it like 3 times in the entire movie, but they'll drop a acronym or something like that, and like IED, and then also they'll have the text come up IED, and it'll say, improperly explosive device,
Yeah.
like in writing next to it. But or they did a few things like that. I think only 3 or 4 times in the entire movie. Um, and they talk about, like, yeah, calling in an angel, and then it's like Angel of Death, which is I think it's a C-130, which is decked out with, a bunch of guns and armaments. Uh, yeah, it's, anyone who plays Call of Duty, Modern Warfare knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Uh, but yes, it's
It's like a
I was
Guy
like, okay,
Ritchie style of thing to do without the Guy Ritchie irreverence. It's like this is just how I communicate, and when I'm being serious, I'm just still gonna put IED, on the
yeah.
screen.
I mean, well, it's one of those things that it's a quick. I thought the few times they don't do overly do it, and it's when they do it, it's to um, help common folk who don't know the lingo. And I'm like, all right, that's just really kind of convenient to have, but it's just stylized in a way instead of having like a black box pull up on the bottom or something like that. So I was like, all right, that's fun. Uh, yeah, the movie is really solid though. It's like just over 2 hours long.
Mm.
So it's not crazy long or anything like that. And uh, it's not based on a real story or anything like that. It's just more like
Kind
the
of like a
concept
could
behind
have
it.
happened sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's because they talk about the amount of interpreters that were kind of involved with our occupation in Iraq, and how it talks about how they were promised to get visas to the US and stuff like that. And so this is a kind of imaginary retelling of something that, yeah, exactly, that could have happened. um and yeah, if if you like Jake Gyllenhaal, uh, totally give it a shot. Recommendation. It's funny though because I wasn't expecting it, but Johnny Lee Miller is in this, and I was just like, I saw him, but at first I'm like, that that doesn't seem right. Then I saw a later scene happen, and I paused it, and I'm like, oh man, it totally is. Um, so Johnny Lee Miller being like from the Elementary, the Lucy Liu Sherlock Holmes TV series.
Oh wow,
He's Yeah, he's also from Train Spotting. He's Pillboy in that, or not Pillboy. I think that's his name. Shoot, it's been a while since I've seen it. He's also was it the original Hackers? He's the main guy from Hackers, with Angelina
really?
Jolie.
Okay,
Yes.
wow.
So but he's playing he has a great American accent. He's playing a colonel, and he's just old he's old makeuped up a little bit, just enough, and it's just like, "Wow, that's wild." It was fun to see him. It just seemed so weird of all the spots. He's not a huge role in it, but just enough.
Yeah, I mean, I always put him
So
as like a sort of like an anti guy. I mean, the Sir Sherlock Holmes is kind of thing, but he's always seemed more like a scoundrel. You know what I'm saying? But I guess
yeah.
Guy Ritchie likes his scoundrels. I'll say that. But to put him in a role of a colonel, which is not really how I think of a scoundrel, is a interesting move. But I guess it worked.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, just to spot him there.
That's
Yeah. Alright, so once again, it was just kind of out of the blue. I don't know why. It's just I was flipping through, and I was on one of the paid, or I think it might have been on Peacock or something like that. We just had some downtime in the evening. One of these evenings where just like find anything and like just something different, and so tired of watching Christmas movies with the family. It's
yeah,
just like we're like, give this a watch. Yeah, we'll just watch half of it and watch the other half later, and we just ended up watching the whole thing in one sitting,
yeah.
which is kind of rare for me
These days,
nowadays,
that means it's a
especially.
good movie.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I said, I enjoyed it, and I'm not a fan of the current war movies. I just there's something about them that I just usually don't watch. But totally thought this was all right. I mean, I give it a watch. I recommend it. Yeah. All right, that's
Hmm.
it, man. That was my one respite from the holiday, onslaught.
Extravaganza.
And well, I mean, like, dude, I still got another turkey to make. Okay, I'm getting good at these.
Get to cooking. Get to baking.
Well, the kids
Get
are
to,
also, once again, they're back on this kick of every night after dinner dessert. I'm like, dude, you guys aren't getting dessert every night, okay? I know
ooh,
we have a pile of cookies over there, and I know we have pie over there, but we ain't getting anything because you guys need a detox for a while. We need a
wow.
sugar low,
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
here, have some fruit. There you go. That's sweet enough.
yeah. I think it's probably a good idea to avoid introducing the basically sugar crack to your children as long as possible. soda as long as possible. You just feed them natural fruit and natural sugars like that first until basically you're forced to introduce it to them, because if you don't, then their friends will. You know.
Dude, but
But
banana was a great, dessert for a long time.
mm,
Just a banana. They
I,
had enough of those probably to see light themselves up in the dark. But
I mean, I'll still
no,
eat
man, it's
I'll still eat those. Like the grapes I get at the grocery store, which grapes I feel like have been pretty hit or miss in my life. So I'm not all that big into them, but they have these one grapes they're really expensive, even for grapes, but they are really 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 good, and those are pretty as close to a substitute for literal chocolate or cookies as I can get. But yeah, so
well,
try to
this
find
is
that, I
the
guess.
year that they finally decided the kids went all in on Santa. We're like, okay, cool. We only got like a year or two of this. So we're like, we decorated the cookies, had them put them out. So like, all right, they're all like super amped about that. And then he actually, like, my son out of nowhere is like consistent for like 2 months being like, I want Optimus and Bumblebee for Christmas." And so he got to see Santa and he asked for that, and he was super worried that Santa didn't know what the colors of Optimus and Bumblebee were. And it's just like, and then after his Christmas, after the first Christmas, kids had like 3, with all the friends and family coming over in waves. So we're like, he's like, after Christmas, he's like, "Huh, Santa didn't give Optimus or, Bumblebee," but he did it so casually. So we're like, we were really cool that he wasn't, like, bent or anything, like, upset. He's just like, he got a few other gifts on
Mhm.
Christmas Day, and then when the in-laws came by, they happened to have the Optimus and Bumblebee, but when he got his gift from Santa, Santa was nice enough to, give him someone. You have to have the good guys fight somebody. So Megatron and Starscream were there, as accompaniment.
Nice.
So he's
He's got a full
yeah,
set.
oh, he really does, and between him and his sister, they both share enough, and, these ones, like, fold pretty well, but at the same time, they're plastic enough so it doesn't break, they're thick, hardy enough. So then occasionally you'll hear him just as he's folding, you just hear him make a noise. I'm like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I pinched myself." And I'm like, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah." Like, "You need help?" It's like, "A little bit." So, yeah, it's
That's
just he's
funny.
learning he's learning, through trial and error and pain, just like the rest of us. A real world example. Uh, but yes, alright, guys. Well, I hope you all had a great holiday season. Uh, we get to look forward to Lunar New Year, right? So, but outside of that, this has been ADP, episode 108. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you got for the people out there?
If you are running a website that has news articles on it that people click on and try to read, do not autoplay the sound on your videos, because it's really, really, really annoying. So, IGN, I'd like you to fix that. And anybody else that's thinking about doing that, please don't make the same mistake they do.
Yeah, that's their scam in order to try to get you to pay for a subscription, which why
Did you
would you
pay
do
for the
that?
muting? Is
Just
that part of the subscription plan?
pretty
I
much.
get auto muted videos? Awesome. Sign me up.
So I just don't pay for the ad blocker. Yes,
Yeah.
screw you and all your revenue. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once again, guys, thanks again, and until next time, take it easy.
Bye.